In our last video, we covered tokens and refresh tokens. So in this video, I'll show you how we protect our endpoints from unauthorized users using those tokens, right? So the first thing that you'll need is actually come right here in your middlewares at this auth.middleware.ts file. And then I already have the spoiler code set up for you, right? So the only thing that you then need to do is have your headers equal to a request dot headers, right? So what we're trying to get from our actual headers is our authorization header, right? And then we'll have a let token, and then for now we'll just set this token to an empty string, right? So now what we then want to do is actually check what we actually have in our headers, right? So if our actual headers, right, is not null, and we actually want to check if our actual header starts with bearer, right? So the reason why we want to check if it actually starts with bearer is because we're trying to get a bearer token from this, right? Headers. Alrighty, so if the bearer token actually exists, now we want to actually initialize like our actual token. So how we go about doing that is we'll say from headers dot split by that space, and then we'll just get the first one, right? So the reason why we're doing that is because in our request headers we'll have something like this, right? Which is going to be from our bearer token, then space, and then like all that string, which is going to be our actual token. So what we're doing is we're splitting by this place, and then we're just getting that index, right? Alrighty, so once we've actually gotten that, what we'll then need to do is say if our token doesn't exist, then we can't authorize this user to use this endpoint, right? So what we'll then do is actually return a response dot status code, and our status code should be set to an unauthorized or for one, right? So then that's what we're gonna actually return. Else, what we then want to do is actually set out like our verify, right? So how we verify, we use this method that's coming from our JSON Web Token, right? And then what it needs to pass is the actual token that you want to verify, right? And then the next thing that you want to pass in there is actually your secret, but our secret is actually stored in our environments variable. So it's going to be process.env.secret key, right? And then what you're then going to get after that is two stuff, right? Which is your actual error and your actual data, right? So this data is just going to be our actual decoded token, basically, right? Okay, let me just copy the secret properly, right? The name should be secret key, and then this is what we should get. Alrighty, so and then what we want to do over here is actually we want to actually check if there is like an error, right? So if we do encounter like an error, this might be caused by like our token actually being expired. So what we then want to do is actually throw like a result, right? Status code, right? Which is gonna be an http dot forbidden, right? And then that's gonna be just an empty JSON, right? Else, if we don't get any errors, what we want to do is actually call this next function. So what this will actually do is, since this is going to be running as a middleware, right? When we actually hit our endpoint, what this service will do is actually go to our middleware, process everything, and if everything is actually successful, then it will then proceed to the next function, which is going to be our actual like controller, right? So over here we're going to try to protect like some routes. So the routes that we'd want to like first protect over here is like our actual get all post, because we don't want an unauthorized user to get their post, right? We want them to be logged in to actually access that, right? So let's just first run the service, and actually go about testing that out. Alrighty, so we'll just wait for that to complete. Let me just go to my postman and go to log in, right? So what you'd want to do is actually log in, right? After you've logged in, you'll just copy this this access token. And I've actually set it up to an environments variable over here, which is called an access token, right? Let me just make sure that I've actually pasted out the right thing. Alrighty, so then the next thing that you then want to do is go to this get all users post and actually call that method. So you'll see over here is you'll actually get that, right? But let's say for instance we didn't pass in like anything from like our actual like bearer token, right? So you'll see over here we'll get like an unauthorized, right? Because we don't have the token passed in, right? And then if we were to just pass that access token, right, that we passed in our variables, then only we'll actually use this route, right? So if I were to try to use like a get post by ID, you'll see that this actually would um work, right? But if I were to go to, I think it's get post, right? So if I were to go back here, let me see. So if I were to go back there, and I think it's post routes, so get post by ID. And if I were to add this middleware over here, which is protected routes, so this would then protect this route. And then if I were to go back to my actual postman, right, and if I didn't pass in like a bearer token and try to access that over there, okay, let's wait for that to restart. So if I didn't add this right there, then that wouldn't work. But if I were to add like that access token, right, so this would actually give me like a 200 OK, righty. But if I were to go back, so let's go back, and I'm actually done, but just showing you, right? So if I were to go back and actually remove this over there and actually go to my actual postman and actually remove my actual token, this should still give me a 200 OK, right? Instead of an unauthorized status, right? So if I were to process that, that will still give me a 200 OK. And then the same applies over here. If I were to remove the token, I'd get an unauthorized, right? So we know that this works. So if you're new to the channel and you like this video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, peace.